insisted on her honesty, recounting how her food had brought them back to health. But their words were summarily dismissed by their parents as nothing more than childish affections, deemed irrelevant in the face of what appeared to be concrete evidence. Kaylin's quiet, analytical attempt to explain Annika's genuine actions was brushed aside by his father, who was too preoccupied with the accusations of theft and deceit. Zara's emotional plea to her mother, filled with unshed tears, was met with a gentle but firm deferral to her husband's judgment. The twins' innocent pleas only intensified their own feeling of helplessness. The circumstantial evidence, meticulously manipulated by the head chef, mounted against Annika. The discarded mangoes she had set aside, intended as protection, were presented as proof of her guilt. The missing ceremonial spice, a grave matter in the Essien household, sealed her fate. Chief Essien, prioritizing his family's unblemished reputation above all else, delivered the devastating verdict. Annika, despite her heartfelt denials, was declared guilty. The punishment was swift and severe, mirroring the chief's decisive nature. Annika faced immediate banishment from the Essien estate. She was given no severance, no chance to explain further, only a stern, unyielding warning never to return to their lands. She left the mansion with a quiet dignity, her head held high, leaving behind the only place that had offered hope to her family. From an upstairs window, Kaylin and Zara watched, their young faces pressed against the cold glass, tears streaming down their cheeks. Their hearts were heavy with a crushing sense of helplessness and betrayal, not just for Annika, but a dawning realization of their own powerlessness. As Annika's figure disappeared from view, a cold, familiar emptiness began to creep back into their lives, a chilling premonition of the despair that now threatened to consume them once more. The vibrant life Annika had brought flickered and threatened to die out entirely. With Annika gone, an inescapable gloom descended upon the Essien mansion, settling over its opulent halls like a shroud. The flicker of hope she had brought was cruelly extinguished. Almost immediately, the twins began to deteriorate with terrifying speed. Their vibrant energy, so recently restored, plummeted. Their appetites vanished entirely, a complete rejection of every meal, leaving them listless and frail once more. The vibrancy that had begun to color their cheeks faded, replaced by the same pallor that had haunted them before Annika's arrival. Doctors, summoned again in a renewed panic, confirmed Chief Essien and Aisha's worst fears: severe malnutrition. Their children were starving, and there was nothing the medical world seemed able to do. The parents were consumed by a crushing guilt and despair, a heavy weight that pressed down on their hearts. They desperately tried everything imaginable, bringing back old chefs, hiring new ones with even grander reputations, and meticulously attempting to recreate Annika's simple, nurturing dishes. But nothing worked. The food, no matter how lovingly prepared, lacked the inexplicable touch that only Annika possessed. The twins' rejection of sustenance continued, their eyes hollow, their small bodies growing painfully frail. The once lively mansion, now echoing with silence and unshed tears, transformed into a mausoleum of regret, a grand tomb for their fading hopes. Chief Essien, usually so commanding, seemed lost in his helplessness, while Aisha's silent weeping became a constant, heartbreaking presence. The bitter realization of their grave mistake in dismissing Annika gnawed at them, a torment almost as profound as watching their children waste away. The grand birthday celebrations, once planned with such joy, were cancelled, replaced by a suffocating pallor. Weeks turned into months, each day a struggle for the severely ill twins. Despite his own weakness, a burning conviction began to take root in Kaylin's mind. He was certain of two things. Annika was innocent of the charges against her, and she, and only she, held the key to their survival. His analytical mind, though clouded by illness, started to piece together fragments of memory. He recalled the head chef's unusual agitation before the accusation, the man's eagerness to point fingers, and the almost unnatural swiftness of the trial. Kaylin started a discreet investigation, observing the remaining staff, He noticed subtle discrepancies in their stories, a nervousness in their demeanor when the head chef was around, and the head chef's own overconfidence, an arrogance that seemed to grow with the twins' decline. Slowly, a chilling hypothesis formed in Kaylin's mind. The head chef had framed Annika, and he was somehow linked to their inexplicable affliction. One sleepless night, driven by a desperate hunger for answers that transcended his physical weakness, Kaylin crept silently to the kitchen. His target was the Seraph's Dust inventory ledger, usually kept under lock and key. With trembling fingers, he managed to access it. What he found there was a shocking discovery, a consistent discrepancy in the Seraph's Dust inventory, a pattern of missing amounts stretching back long before Annika's arrival. These transactions were handled exclusively by the head chef. Kaylin's suspicions solidified. He remembered the faint metallic aftertaste in some of the older dishes served before Annika, and then the distinct greenish tinge on the mangoes Annika had set aside that fateful day. He knew then, with absolute certainty, that Annika's instincts, dismissed by his father, had been right all along. The truth, however painful, was within his reach. The weight of the unsaid, the burden of a secret carried for so long, finally became too much for Zara. Weak and utterly exhausted from her prolonged illness, she saw the fierce, unyielding determination in Kaylin's eyes, a reflection of her own desperate hope for understanding. Her spirit, though frail, responded to his conviction. In a raspy voice, choked with unshed tears, she began to speak, the words spilling out in a torrent of long-held fear and pain. Mother and father were always so busy, Kaylin, she whispered, her voice barely audible. We missed them so much. It started then. The revelation that followed was like a cold shock. The culprit was not an unknown entity, but someone who had once walked among them, Alara, a former housemaid. Driven by a deep-seated resentment from what she perceived as an unjust dismissal years ago, Alara had secretly begun to poison them. Her method was insidious, a slow, methodical vengeance. The poison she used was not immediately lethal, but came in small, undetectable doses of a specific rare plant toxin. This toxin subtly altered their taste buds, creating an extreme aversion to nearly all food. It was a cunning torment, designed to inflict slow, agonizing malnutrition, making them wither away without a clear cause. Alara had made them promise not to tell, threatening worse fates if they ever spoke a word. Terrified and isolated by their strange affliction, the children had kept the secret, bearing their suffering in silence, too scared to betray their tormentor. Zara's voice gained a fragile strength as she spoke of Annika. When Annika came, she recounted, her eyes lighting with a faint memory of comfort. Her food, it was different. It had wild berries and herbs. I remember Alara used to say those berries were the only things that could counteract the toxin, even if just a little. Annika's food somehow, inexplicably, negated the effects, at least temporarily. It made us feel normal again. It was an accidental antidote, a chance discovery by Annika's quiet intuition that had unknowingly brought them back from the brink. Kaylin listened, his own mind racing, connecting Zara's confession to his recent discoveries. A chilling realization washed over him. The moon-kissed mangoes with the greenish tinge were not simply spoiled. They were subtly tainted with the very same toxin. The head chef was involved, likely working with Alara, or perhaps he had discovered her method and, fueled by his own deep resentment, decided to weaponize it for his own gain. The pieces clicked into place. The head chef had seen Annika's food counteracting the toxin, making her a direct threat to his scheme. That was why he framed her, eliminating the one person who could inadvertently save them. The Seraph's Dust, Kaylin now understood, was a red herring. It was a clever distraction, used to create a false accusation that would ensure Annika's immediate banishment, clearing the path for his true, horrifying objective. The head chef's ultimate goal was not just to see the twins suffer, it was to continue poisoning them, ensuring their slow decline, even death, for reasons of twisted gratification or perhaps even for extortion, reveling in the protracted suffering of the Essien family. His resentment towards the family, combined with Alara's original plan, had found its cruel, calculating expression. The seraph's dust itself might have been a petty theft for personal gain, or perhaps even used ritualistically in his own dark private ceremonies, adding another layer of unsettling mystery to his actions. The true horror of their situation settled upon Kaelin with crushing weight. Years of silent suffering, of living in constant fear, of profound isolation, and agonizing hunger, all inflicted by a trusted hand. Their loving parents, tragically unaware, had even actively hindered their recovery by dismissing Annika, the only one who had brought them respite. The depth of the betrayal, the sheer cold-blooded nature of the long-game revenge was almost unbearable. Zara's confession pulled back the curtain on a hidden world of malice that had been slowly consuming them from within. Zara's voice gained a fragile strength as she spoke of Annika. When Annika came, she recounted, her eyes lighting with a faint memory of comfort. Her food, it was different. It had wild berries and herbs. I remember Alara used to say those berries were the only things that could counteract the toxin, even if just a little. Annika's food somehow, inexplicably, negated the effects, at least temporarily. It made us feel normal again. It was an accidental antidote, a chance discovery by Annika's quiet intuition that had unknowingly brought them back from the brink. Kaelin listened, his own mind racing, connecting Zara's confession to his recent discoveries. A chilling realization washed over him. The moon-kissed mangoes with the greenish tinge were not simply spoiled, they were subtly tainted with the very same toxin. The head chef was involved, likely working with Alara, or perhaps he had discovered her method and, fueled by his own deep resentment, decided to weaponize it for his own gain. The pieces clicked into place. The head chef had seen Annika's food counteracting the toxin, making her a direct threat to his scheme. That was why he framed her, eliminating the one person who could inadvertently save them. The seraph's dust, Kaelin now understood, was a red herring. It was a clever distraction, used to create a false accusation that would ensure Annika's immediate banishment, clearing the path for his true, horrifying objective. The head chef's ultimate goal was not just to see the twins suffer, it was to continue poisoning them, ensuring their slow decline, even death, for reasons of twisted gratification, or perhaps even for extortion, reveling in the protracted suffering of the Essien family. His resentment towards the family, combined with Alara's original plan, had found its cruel, calculating expression. The seraph's dust itself might have been a petty theft for personal gain, or perhaps even used ritualistically in his own dark private ceremonies, adding another layer of unsettling mystery to his actions. The true horror of their situation settled upon Kaelin with crushing weight. Years of silent suffering, of living in constant fear, of profound isolation, and agonizing hunger, all inflicted by a trusted hand. Their loving parents, tragically unaware, had even actively hindered their recovery by dismissing Annika, the only one who had brought them respite. The depth of the betrayal, the sheer cold-blooded nature of the long-game revenge was almost unbearable. Zara's confession pulled back the curtain on a hidden world of malice that had been slowly consuming them from within. Kaelin, fueled by a righteous anger that belied his frail body, confronted his parents. His voice, though weak, carried the undeniable weight of truth as he laid bare Zara's confession and his own deductions. He presented the ledger, the notes of his observations, and recounted his sister's harrowing account. The revelation shattered Chief Essien and Aisha. Their world, built on control and certainty, crumbled. The weight of their blindness, the devastating mistake of dismissing Annika, and the horrifying truth of their children's years of torment descended upon them like a physical blow. Initial denial, a desperate clinging to their previous reality, quickly turned to sheer horror, then a protective rage, cold and focused. Aisha wept openly, but Chief Essien's face hardened, his jaw set with a grim resolve. No more inaction. Chief Essyen's counterplan was decisive and immediate. There would be no mistakes this time, no quiet internal trial. The head chef would be exposed publicly, and Alara, the architect of this long-game torment, would be brought to justice for her heinous acts. More importantly, they had to find Annika, their only hope, their accidental savior, the one person who had truly understood. Zara, though weak, confirmed crucial details about Alara's methods and the exact plant toxin she had used, adding vital pieces to the terrifying puzzle. Chief Essyen launched a covert investigation, leveraging his extensive network with a speed and intensity that few could match. Within days, Alara was located in a remote, secluded village, still consumed by bitterness over her past dismissal. Confronted, she broke down, her confession detailing how she had systematically used the specific plant toxin for years, relishing in the Essyen parents' despair. She confirmed Annika's unintentional discovery. The wild berries and herbs Annika used were indeed a temporary antidote she herself had learned about in her youth, a local remedy capable of counteracting the initial effects of her slow-acting poison. Her confirmation underscored Annika's vital, though unrecognized role. The focus then shifted to the head chef. He was placed under discreet, constant scrutiny. Chief Essyen, with a calculated precision, staged an elaborate, high-profile dinner for an influential dignitary, creating the perfect trap. He specifically demanded moon-kissed mangoes, the very fruit that had been linked to Annika's banishment, and, with a chilling insistence, a small amount of the ceremonial seraph's dust for a decorative flourish. Covert cameras were meticulously installed in the kitchen, their lenses trained on the head chef's station, ready to capture every incriminating move. The chef, oblivious to the snare, walked straight into it. The cameras captured it all. He was caught tampering with the mangoes, carefully adding the telltale greenish liquid, the very plant toxin Alara used, cleverly mimicking spoilage. Then came the shocking reveal. The cameras also recorded him with deliberate precision, adding a small amount of the seraph's dust into the tainted mangoes. This was not for theft, not for ceremonial use, but as a deliberate, horrifying part of the poisoning process itself. Confronted with the irrefutable evidence, the head chef finally broke down. His confession was a torrent of twisted malice. He admitted discovering Alara's method years ago. He was her estranged elder brother and believed his sister had been unjustly dismissed by Chief Essyen. He saw the twins' suffering not as a tragedy, but as just retribution for the perceived slight against his family. He had taken Alara's revenge and made it his own, refining it, perfecting it with a chilling precision. Then came the horrifying truth of seraph's dust, the ultimate twist that plunged the Essyen family into a deeper abyss of shock. Seraph's dust was not a mere distraction, not a red herring. It was the catalyst. Alara's plant toxin, while slow-acting and not always lethal on its own, mutated into a far more potent and fast-acting poison when combined with seraph's dust, a rare mineral revered in ancient rituals for its spiritual connections. This was the chilling detail. The seraph's dust not only amplified the toxin's deadliness, but it also rendered the victim's taste buds hypersensitive and almost violently rejectant of all other food. It effectively starved them to death while the amplified poison slowly worked its lethal magic from within. The head chef had systematically used tiny, untraceable quantities of seraph's dust to amplify the original poison, masking his actions as an inexplicable food aversion. Annika's natural remedies, effective against the initial, less potent toxin, were powerless against this amplified version. Her simple, natural foods provided temporary relief, but they couldn't fully counteract the intensified, ritualistic poison the head chef was secretly administering. The true genius and horror of his plan was laid bare. He wasn't just causing them to starve. He was actively, deliberately, and chemically accelerating their death under the cover of a medical mystery, making it appear as if their bodies were simply rejecting food, while in reality, the food was rejecting them through the amplified poison. Annika, the very person who had accidentally discovered a partial antidote had been banished, ensuring the head chef's plan could continue unimpeded. The Essien family was shattered not just by the betrayal, but by the sheer, cold-blooded scientific and ritualistic precision of the head chef's revenge. A revenge so intricate and hidden that it had almost succeeded in taking their children's lives right under their noses. The shocking truth was that the twins' rejection of food was not a psychological affliction, but a calculated, chemically induced response designed to slowly kill them, amplified by a sacred ceremonial ingredient and meticulously carried out by someone they trusted implicitly. Justice, though delayed, arrived swiftly and decisively. The head chef and Alara were arrested, their meticulous web of deceit fully exposed to the public. The societal shock at the depth of their betrayal, the calculated cruelty inflicted upon innocent children by trusted hands, was immense. They faced the full consequences of their heinous actions, their twisted revenge laid bare for all to see. For the Essien family, this marked the beginning of a long, arduous road to healing, both physically from the trauma endured and emotionally from the profound breach of trust. Annika was found and brought back to the Essien estate, not as a housemaid, but as a revered figure, a beacon of truth and simple wisdom. Her quiet dignity and innate understanding were truly recognized, her worth now undeniable. The twins, still recovering but gaining strength each day, clung to her, finding immense comfort in her presence and her nurturing food. The Essien family, chastened by their past blindness, showered her with genuine gratitude and profound respect. Her traditional remedies, once dismissed, were now understood for their counter-toxic properties, honored as vital knowledge. What lesson did you take away from this intricate web of deceit? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more amazing stories. Thank you for watching.